everybody. You are now tuned in to StarCHaser Central, a podcast about Charles Hamilton, music moments, and everything in between. I'm Sick Braxton.
And I am Mike D. Jackson.
What?
If you want to do this today, we can.
I didn't say anything. I said,
It's
What?
okay, man. Listen. You never win these, but
I'm
it's
not
it's
trying
fun.
to win. There's no winning. I thought we were a partnership. We're a tag team. No one's turning on each other. It's not like I'm gonna smack you over the head with a chair.
Nah, you're going through the window. You're definitely going through the window. You're,
Wow,
you're,
you're
you're the
gonna
Marty.
throw me through
You're
the
the Marty
window?
Jannetty of this group.
Wow. I'm the Marty Jannetty? No,
Yeah,
no.
man.
I'm not the Marty Jannetty of this group. I don't think you understand how this works.
All right. Well,
You were
anyway,
you were you were Jim the Jim Neidhart of our group. That's what you are.
okay. You're the British Bulldog of the group. You are the Owen Hart of the group.
Great
You're the
wrestler.
Yeah.
You
All of them are
you
dead.
you are
All of them are
you
dead. You're
let
you're
me
Brian
let me
Pillman.
let me
You're all.
let me explain. You were the Vincent of our group. Okay?
You're the Vince McMahon of whatever you want to be.
That's bad. That's not great.
That's what you wanted to do, man. That's what you wanted to do.
I didn't want to do anything. I thought I just was trying
Can
to
we start the
admire.
show? Can we start the show, man?
I was trying to admire your shirt, and here you go doing all this extra stuff. It's ridiculous, honestly.
Nah, you were not admiring anything. Can we
What are
can
you
we start
talking
the
about? It's
show?
an Austin 316 shirt.
Can we start the show,
The
man?
show has started. What you mean?
All right, guys, this is the StarCHaser Central.
How you doing, man?
I was doing great until you pissed me off. How are you
I
doing?
think you're still doing great, honestly.
Oh man, this is gonna be a fun episode. I can
I thought
tell.
so. Yeah, but no, seriously, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. About to take a sip of my water that I'm sure somebody done spit in, but
Jesus. What?
you never watched that episode of Chappelle Show, The Haters Ball?
Aha. Yeah. Yeah. That show was kind of problematic now that you think about it. I mean, I'm not gonna put it on the problematic shelf because I'm still gonna watch it, but like it's pretty rough sometimes.
It's a lot of shows we used to watch that definitely could be labeled problematic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But it's just better to learn from them than to get rid of them. Anyway, I'm doing fine. Yeah, I'm doing okay. It's a beginning. We're at the end, as we're recording, we're at the end of October, which means we only have 2 months left. Um, Feels like the year went by quickly, but I don't know how you feel about that.
um the year has I don't know, the year has done a lot of things. I feel that right now and going into 2025, just I'm in a good position and I'm gonna keep that going. And I hope the same for everybody else. And even if you're not, like I said, finish the year strong and then 2025 just make up for I don't even want to say make up for lost time, but just get back to what you were doing.
That's good stuff. Um, but we are here to do a job, and we are here to review a new tape for the people, new episode, and we are reviewing actually an album. We're reviewing This Perfect Life, man.
That is correct. This Perfect Life. It's crazy because certain people call this album TPL, but then also some people call Pink Lava Lamp TPL.
Hmm.
I think some people will say TPLL for Pink Lava Lamp. But
Yeah.
anyway, we are reviewing an album. It's been a while since we reviewed an album of
Mhm.
sorts, but it's crazy because normally this is the point where I'm like, yeah, this album came out at this time.
Mhm.
But as some of you might know, um, this album never actually came out at a certain original date it was supposed to be. I want to say, what did y'all say? June 23rd?
June
That was supposed to
23rd
be.
sound. Hmm.
Yeah, it's supposed to be June 23rd of I want to say 2009, but album unfortunately got shelved. We still got the album though, but um things did not end up the way they were supposed to, unfortunately. That is the breaks when it comes to the music business and Interscope, I guess you could say.
Yeah. A rough one, a rough time period, and we'll get into more of that as we go along. But yeah, it seems like what I can confirm, it looks like this came out. We actually got around in September. I think it said September 20th or something like that of
Yeah, about
2009.
like September.
Mhm. Um, do you remember your first time? hearing it, and like what was like your reaction to getting the album that we were actually supposed to buy in stores?
I definitely remember, first time listening to this, we had to wait for so long for it to finally come out.
Mm.
Then it got shelved. Then when we finally got it, I'm going to be honest, I guess I could say disappointed a little bit
Okay.
because there was so much time that we had to wait for this album, then so much controversy, so much problematic stuff that was happening. We finally got it, and then I was just like, it's not that I didn't like it, right? It's
Hmm.
not that I didn't like the album. I was just like, man, I just expected, I don't know if I want to say I expected more, but I think I expected something different. Like I thought about like some of my favorite projects of Charles that I've listened to, and I'm like, yeah, this is why I like this mixtape. This is why I like this project.
Hmm.
And I'm like, is I was expecting, maybe an amalgamation of this and that. Of course, you're gonna have that mainstream spin on it. But when we finally got what we got, I was just like, yeah, it's there's stuff I like on here. There's other stuff where I'm like, maybe it's okay, but overall, I think I just was disappointed. There's definitely songs I liked on there, but just like it wasn't what I was expecting. At the same time, I don't know what anyone else was expecting for a debut album from Charles Hamilton. What about you?
Yeah, I think. Hmm. I remember throwing the album on, and I was like, okay, this is good. And I think I'm like you. I was like, this is definitely different from what I'd heard. Not too far different. Like the sound was fine, right? But it felt like I think what is what you said. Like there was a mainstream effort in there, right? Which
Right.
isn't a bad or a good thing. It's just it's a noticeable thing. Um, but I also think you're kind of right too, where after all the controversy and after all the, you know, the stuff that we had to get through to get the album, and Charles is the one who ended up giving it to us anyway, which is still kind of crazy. I don't know how that part happened. Because I thought it would still be a property of Interscope, but I don't know the workings of that. But it's like after all the things we had to go through, it's like I felt like there should have been more surprises or more something more from the album. Like, oh, look at this feature, this specific feature that we got on here. Like, oh, okay, cool. Or this producer that did a jump for Charles on here. Like, okay, cool. But it still was. How do I put this? It was still a Charles Hamilton tape with just like he could have did that by himself. You know what I'm saying? Like the only thing that was really added it was the crooked feature and maybe the Aja Monet poem at the end. But everything else was just like, oh, this is a Charles Hamilton tape as normal. Like there's really no involvement from Interscope. So I think that's what kind of threw me off when I heard it.
I can agree because like you said, we've heard Charles do his own thing for such a long time. So I guess we are all just expecting, okay, we're gonna hear Charles, but it's just gonna be like on a bigger level because it's Interscope involved, especially at that time, 2008, 2009. You had Eminem who was back, you had 50 still, on the label, Dr. Dre. They
Mhm.
had the Beats headphones thing, like Jimmy had so much stuff going on or whatever. So I'm just like, okay. And we heard Charles talk about his relationship with Jimmy Iovine, and they always seem like they're on great terms. So I'm like, they're not going to just throw him out there just to sink. And I won't say that that's what they did. I think it's just they got to a certain point where they said, you know what, we're gonna just cut our losses and just let him put it out however he wants to put it out, and just we'll go from wherever, I guess. So
Yeah. Album has 11 songs. Like I said, there weren't many features. In fact, they're all in the back portion of the album. Um, and then most of the production was done by Charles with a couple from, I think Shalik has one they did with Charles. I think Woody has the other. Is there another one I might be missing?
uh I want to say no. Well, I do want to say this, like you said, it's 11 songs. One thing that I did like that Charles did was he he did two things. One, and he normally doesn't do this, but one, he actually put the samples down for everything. If there's a sample saying, "Hey, This is this sample, this is that sample. If you guys go on the YouTube, if you go on YouTube, whoever has the playlist out, they have like all that stuff listed down in like the comment section. Well, not the comment section, the description. They have all that listed down. And also like a brief one sentence description for all of the songs.
Yep.
I want to read those off real quick if you didn't mind.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, sure. So starting off with first song, Barbara Walters. Insomnia, depression, getting over your problems by talking. Makes sense. 3 Pound Bullet, dealing with the elephant in the room factor. Ghost, the paranormal paranoia. Post lynching ceremony. Racism. All alone. Teen depression and suicide. Cable in the classroom. A general response to the question, how? Baby, the innocence in being an artist. Reminder, putting rage in perspective. Tears of Fire, saying goodbye to the pain that holds one back. Long Socks, the universal friendship bracelet for all people lucky enough to have one. And then Rosado, a dedication to the color of life. And that's really nice because sometimes artists will say, "Oh, we want you to listen to it and have your own interpretation," but it's something that's always great, especially for your first time, going to be your debut album, for you to just put a little like description of, "Hey, this is basically me, my first album. I want to just let y'all know exactly like why I named these songs, what I named them, and
Mhm.
and everything else." So
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot too. Because again, like I said, we don't get this as often. We definitely don't get it as much anymore. It's more of a interpretation vibe type thing, or we have to talk to Charles to be able to understand what he's talking about. So again, OGs are like us, stuff like this. We used to get like breakdowns and like kind of explanations of certain things that really helped us resonate with albums more. Um, and they were more accessibly communicated to us, right? It's like I can understand all of that, right? Because then I can apply that some of those things into my life, or like, same thing with you, apply to do something in your life, and it's easiest for us to be like, okay, I see the connection that he's trying to make here or whatever. So yeah, I appreciate that. Shout out to Sega Hamilton Zone. That's who I use to as a playlist. I think you use it as well.
yeah, definitely. Also, we talked about how we felt about This Perfect Life when we heard it, but I wanted to take this time really quick and briefly to bring up the segment that I haven't brought up in a while. But
Hmm.
what did the Star Chaser say when we
Hmm.
look back into the yesteryear? Let's see what everyone else said. This was a really good one. I scoured through Star Chaser Central and some other stuff. Um, Someone said when I listen to This Perfect Life, I always wonder what could have been. The Pink Lava Lamp and This Perfect Life really helped me out a lot, and I dead ass just slept on them. Someone said This Perfect Life is greater than Good Kid, Mad City. That's some praise right there. I'm like, hey, I'm not saying who's right or who's wrong, but listen, if y'all know Good Kid, Mad City, then hey, that's great company to have. Oh my God, This Perfect Life is awesome.
Hmm.
The best thing to happen to this man since the wheel. Way too real to describe in words. Amazing and would have been a classic if it was released and mastered. Was supposed to be album of the year. So everyone basically said they loved it or they really liked it.
Hmm.
So that was dope. So that was just my segment right there. So
Yeah. Um, and we're gonna find out if we feel the same. Um, I like I said, we had our reservations back then, but how do we feel these days? Um, let's start off with Barbara Walters. Barbara Walters opens the album.
Only you because of me, I need to speak the greed to reach my peace. Late at night, I'm alive. Dreaming about my thoughts of yesterday. Screaming about my thoughts of yesterday. I wish I could talk to yesterday and tell my story. I'm ready to tell my story.
so number one, I like the name and just kind of like the energy because especially at that time, like that's the person you actually did talk to, where it's like, okay, I have this really important interview or I got this really important segment or situation going on in my life. Gotta get on Barbara Walters, gotta get her to talk to me and ask me those hard hitting questions
Hmm.
because it's just the scoop. That's just what it was. Um, so this intro, Charles is talking about his past, talks about, his relationship with his parents, um, the abuse he might have went through, drugs he experimented with. He also mentioned HO and the mentorship he had with him, and basically everything that made Charles who he is, especially at that time. Pretty interesting because Charles took, I want to say, the normal approach where it's like, yeah, I went through this and I went through that and I went through this and that, and I had this hard upbringing, and then kind of wraps it up with a nice little bow saying, but this is what made me who I am, and no matter
Mhm.
what, I'm not taking none of that back. So even with all that said, I still made it and I'm still here, able to deliver this debut album at 20, 21 years old. I say it's a good intro, and it sets you up for what to expect. Because with this first song, I'm not sure at the time everyone that kind of listened to the project then, but if you heard anything from Charles before, it's like Brooklyn Girls, right?
Mhm.
You hear this, and it's like, okay, this is not like Brooklyn Girls. So you kind of have an idea already, like, okay, this is not going to be what I thought. Like, it's not going to be some regular rappy rap stuff or whatever. Like, it's going to be or mainstream. It's like it's going to be, someone that actually wants to like say some real shit on songs. So, so far, I like the intro. Good intro.
Yeah, I think this is one of the best intros he's had, honestly, because I think what the best things about intros or the best intros kind of do one or two things, right? They're gonna introduce you to the concept of what you're gonna be dealing with throughout the album, or it introduce you to the actual artist and what what they're about. And I feel like this one does both. Um, I think the fun thing about listening to this in 2024 versus listening to it back then is we have so much more information now. You know what I'm saying? Like the thing about his parents, like you kind of got that, right? We kind of got that in previous music, and we kind of, that's easy to pick up on like certain songs, like on the one on Awkward, some of the stuff on Pink Lava, that's easy to pick up on, right? The father daddy issues, stuff like that. Speaking of daddy issues, I love the way he kind of addresses him in the first verse. Mr. Only You Because of Me. I like that. That's a clever way of just saying yo dad. And like sing and like as senior, like, I think that's a cool way. But the second verse is the most interesting one because like right in the beginning, like on it for a while, I kept waiting for a way to escape from my child molestation. And like I feel like we all just glossed by that and didn't say nothing. Like no one really was like, did he just say that he was, you know what I'm saying? Like it was just a regular, he rapped it like it was just like a regular sentence, but like I feel like we didn't have that information at the time. So then as years go by and now we're here in 2024 and we know what he went through, it's such a more powerful verse, and it kind of leads into why I started doing drugs and heroin and coke and all this other stuff. Like it's 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 a much more powerful song now than it was probably back then. And so I think with the information, it makes it such a better intro and probably one of the better songs that he's made in his career.
Totally agree with that. Yeah. And just the biggest thing, like he says in the hook, I'm ready to tell my story with everything he's been through. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell it all, lay it on the line, just let y'all know how it is. No cutting anything out. Just roll the footage. Let's go.
We followed that up with 3 Pound Bullet. I will say at the time, I wasn't like a huge fan of this. Um, but listening to it today and kind of just like going over the lyrics and stuff, way more appreciation for this. I like the beat. The beat's fun. I like the verses. Verses are good. Again, he's talking more. Like you said, what did we say this one was about? This one was about dealing with the elephant in the room factor. My question to you is, what is the elephant in the room?
For Charles, because there's
Plenty.
honestly, I think it's a trick question. And I think the actual answer is there's not one elephant in the room. It's actually three elephants in the room or four. Because like in the previous song, he had so much stuff going on. But I would say one of the big elephants in the room, obviously the executive producer thing. But
Hmm.
if that's not what you're what you were referencing, what is the elephant in the room?
Oh no, that was a real question. I was gonna ask you. Because I feel like you say, it's a lot of things that we can kind of address with Charles too. And again, throughout this album, there's another thing that he kind of talks about a lot. It's a common theme in here. It's I wish y'all could see inside of my head. I don't think like I think that's another start sign of like again 2009. We're like, oh, okay, he's just a troubled artist. He's going through some stuff, and like he just we called him a hothead. Like he was just antics and stuff when it felt um random or just to do it, right? But we now know that he struggled with some mental health issues or whatever and got diagnosed eventually, right? But again, 2009, we didn't know that. But here, this could be like what he's kind of alluding to, like the way I think and the stuff that I see and like the thing that I have to go through. It's my mind and the way I view things is different than y'all. So like what seems one way, I look at it a different way. So it's fun and just interesting to see these songs today versus back then, right? Because we just know so much more.
Definitely. Um, I have to agree with you on this song. When I first heard it, I think I was first like, this is what I'm like. I was iffy about it. I'm like, man,
Mm-hmm.
this is like the second song and it's like this. I don't know. Listen to it now. I think I do like it a lot more. What I did say was, Charles had an essence of lyrical ability, but still wanting to have fun. Like this is his song where he wanted to showcase, okay, I'm gonna do the lyrical, miracle, spiritual, and all that, and do the nice flows at the same time, he just wanted to enjoy himself while making the music because you might hear him laugh or do a little chuckle, whatever, just like
Mm-hmm.
just so that was dope to see. Just I call it a casual flexing of talent. Like he's showing off, but not too much, but not in an arrogant way, just in a hey, just a fun loving way. Also he is leaning more into the rock sound, kind of like what I said before. Charles trying to make sure he's letting people know I'm not a regular rapper. I don't just rap on just rap beats. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm a musician. That's the biggest thing there. He said that multiple times. I'm a musician. Yeah,
Yeah.
I rap, and that's the medium I chose to express myself. But I am a musician, so he was leaning more into the rock sound with this song, and we don't have a problem with it. Of course, certain Charles Hamilton's or StarCHaser fans, they aren't the biggest fans of it, but it's just like, but that's kind of what he does. Not all the time, but it's there. Overall, I would say I like the song. I do like the song. Before I didn't like it as much. Now I'm cool. It wouldn't be something that I feel like sometimes I'll listen to it, sometimes I'll skip it. Like I'd listen to it. So good second song.
Before we kind of get into the next song, I think we have to address our own elephant in the room. Question that we both asked. In fact, no, not both. A lot of people have asked this question, and this is the time for us to probably get this answer from Charles. The cover.
So actually, I'll let you finish because I actually have the answer here.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. I think let me ask you this before you provide the answer that we have. Um, what was your initial thought on the cover when you first saw it?
Well, that's easy. What the fuck is this?
Okay, I feel like that's
And,
everybody.
and no offense, but I just remember being like, all right, well, because that whole thing of okay, what's his first album going to sound like? What's the debut going to be like? What's the cover going to be like? In my head, I figured it's just going to be like something simple with like Charles on the cover or something
Hmm.
like that. Um, I I literally don't know. Like I figured it's going to be something simple. Then you got to see it, and I'm like, okay, what happened? And in
Hmm.
my head, I'm like, because I don't know how it works, but logistics, I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's like a couple of covers that they had, ideas they had, and Charles like, well, this is the best one I got.
Right.
Maybe because I was thinking in my head, maybe he like tried to explain something to someone, and that's the closest they got to it, and then it's like, all right, well, cool. And then maybe Interscope was like, well, maybe we should go with something else, and then he's like, no, I want that one, and it's like, I will say this, it stands out. So if we actually did get to see this at like Target or Walmart or something like that, whatever retailer you're next to, you definitely will see it and be like, who is that and whose album is that?
Yeah.
So if he was going for that, like the wow factor, 10 out of 10 for that. But me, I was just like, definitely didn't like it. And I can say this right now, still don't like it. It's still not for me. So
Right. Yeah, I think for me, I was like, again, not knowing how the music industry worked at the time, because I'm a college student or whatever. It's just like, oh, it's got to have some type of Sonic thing. That's all we've ever saw, like for the most part, Sonic cover, Sonic cover, Sonic cover. I would have been satisfied with a very generic Charles Hamilton on the cover. type of situation. So when you see this and you're like, you look at it and you're like, I don't get it. I couldn't understand like this perfect life. It's like, okay, uh, a married marriage, two kids. I get that part. I under that nails it. But why did they have to be? What are we? They're gorillas, right? That's what they
Yeah.
are in the cover. Yeah. So like, why? Why that? And why the quote unquote very minstrel looking type of situation that they got going on, right? Minstrel show type of situations. I was like, I don't know. I just wasn't a fan. But you said you have an answer for us. I'm eager to hear it.
Yeah. So I actually asked Charles about it recently, but also I forgot that this was it's great when the internet is still up and there's still quotes from things because
Hmm.
Charles would answer this stuff on his blog, but that's gone. But
Right.
Charles did say for the cover, shouts to Radar at Subcon, who did the cover. I'm in love with it. So Charles loved the album cover. So
Okay.
so what when I talked to him, he said that, talk to Radar was just like, hey, I have an idea for this, and gave him the ideas. They said, all right, I'll be back. Came back with it. Charles said, loved it. Perfect. Don't change anything else.
Hmm.
So definitely was Charles' idea. The artist, put it together the way Charles wanted it. So that's the answer for that. But when it comes to like the meaning of it,
Hmm.
um, you know how, like, for example, this perfect life or in a perfect world, that whole saying when we always talk about things should be like this, or we would all have this and that.
Yep.
So like you said, the cover, it's a family. It's a family, and you see them smiling and they look happy, but this actually is like a little bit deeper because and it deals with like racism and all that type of stuff,
I
whatever.
figured. Yeah.
And you can't really tell that because it's just that cover, but it has to deal with that type of thing where the way that we're depicted and looked at, we have our own American dream and all that type of stuff, but
Hmm.
it's one of those things where we're still treated a certain way and we shouldn't be. And we always talk about, oh, this is the perfect life for us, but is it really that perfect? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's along the lines of that. I might have skewed a few things, but Charles, if you see this, feel free to clean up what I've said. But basically, it has to do with kind of like racism and all that. So.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, even with the bare minimum knowledge I had in college, of like I can kind of see that probably that's where he's headed. Um, but yeah, that makes a little bit more sense. I still would have preferred a different cover, but I feel him.
I respect the answer and I respect the reason why, because it's like, hey,
Exactly.
sometimes it's not talked about and it's not discussed. And, that's always going to be forward thinking in 2009 or whenever,
Hmm.
because not everyone's really ready to talk about that. There's still people now still not ready to talk about it in 2024, going into 2025. So, you know,
Pretend like it doesn't exist. That's their theory. Um, Ghost follows up. What you feel about that one?
all right. So when I first heard it, I like, you hear the sample right in the beginning. I'm like,
Yep.
oh, okay. So he's about to snap with this. I'm like, there's no way he could not, so spoiler alert, he did not ruin it or drop it, whatever. I'm like, bro, there's no way that he can fuck this up, whatever. So, dope sample flip. Uh, I think this is where the album picks up for most people. So if they
Yep.
weren't really like ready for the first intro, Barbara Walters, I'm like, okay, some people it's like, but you gotta let someone tell the story. You gotta let them
Mm.
set it up. And then with the second song, oh, so it's a rock sample. I'm not really feeling that. So you get some rap, how some people look at it. Oh, he's rapping on a rap beat. I'm like, there you go. Um, so what I said, when it comes to rap, Charles knows his talent and he's confident in his abilities. He acknowledges who came before, but won't let others determine his worth or future. So it's one of those things where, like, he's talking about not going to let it go, stress him out. I remember Jay-Z, I forget what song it was, or it was a freestyle where, at the time when people were saying Jay-Z was the GOAT or he was the best, but then people
Mhm.
say, nah, he's not better than Biggie or Tupac. And then like he had a line about, if he's the best, but y'all got him battling ghosts or whatever.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I looked at it as Charles doing something similar, where he's talking about, there's obviously rappers that he's always aspired to, admired, looked up to,
Mhm.
uh, living or deceased. But the thing is, he knows what he's doing and where he's trying to go, and he's not going to let the actual ghost of rap like deter him, but he's also not going to let like the naysayers, like their ghosts, their demons, deter him from what he wants to do. Because at the end of the day, he's like, I'm a nice artist. I know what I'm doing. I'm good at what I do, and y'all not going to tell me that I'm not. Because if you do, it's like it's kind of just bullshit. You're not really saying what's really real. So this is a really good song. I like it. One thing I did like too, at the end, they did like an extra flip where they did like the drums from Jaquan's Tipsy.
Hmm.
So it's like you got some even more rap in there. So, and people, wild thing is, I don't know last time you actually heard Tipsy, but anytime I see a bar play that somewhere, people still get hype over it. So it's something about that drum pattern that people still love to this day. So it's a really good song. I like this song.
Yeah, I actually have been listening to Tipsy for that secret podcast I'm starting. Um, Also, I don't need another one. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. Also, Tipsy is still, I know Tipsy's still important because that inspired the number one song that's in the country for most of the year, and that's that Jump by Shabuzi. Um, so it's still a cultural big song. This song is fire. I remember I'm like you. For people who probably were like, I don't know what the direction he's taking with these first two songs because the first one is it still had that Charlton the thing, but it's more of a he's really rapping and trying to tell us something. And then second song is more of that poppy kind of poppy-ish song direction he's trying to take us. This is for the rappers, right? Like we said, this is the rap part of it. Always like this. I can kind of overlook the second verse, how it starts with that word or whatever. That I doesn't bother me as much. Um, we all are hypocrites somewhere. But I love
Hey,
this
don't put
song.
me in there. Don't put me in that. He gonna call you about that one.
No, some of us are hypocrites. It's fine. It's fine. But I've always loved this song. All three verses are pretty good. Yeah, it does seem like it's him talking about the past and not letting imaginary or like things that aren't there affect him in his future. I could have taken that as, people who aren't around. So like the ghost of his dad, like at the time where he was in his life, like I'm not gonna let that stress me out and take me off of my path. Or even at this point, we've gone through some women in his life that I could let those things affect me on my path to where I'm trying to head to. So there's a lot of different ways you can kind of take the song or whatever, but no matter how you take it, he definitely wrapped his ass off here. So really good record.
Totally agree.
Not gonna let it go stress me out. Should I even care if you're not even there? Not gonna let it go stress me out. You're in the room, I can only assume. Not gonna let it go stress me out. Someone turn the lights off, put the candle lights on. Not gonna let it go, not gonna let it go, not gonna let it go, not gonna let it go.
Post lynching ceremony. So this is where we can get into the racism portion of the album and how maybe it ties into the cover. This song, I think. Let me make sure I had the right song because this is one where he says nigga a lot, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So this to me, this is like, oh, this is like the N word if it was just the N word, right? Because like he uses it a lot. Like like Kendrick would be real mad if he was doing it, like the way Drake made him do that same nigga in the second verse of the whole song. Like I feel like this is what Charles would have done too. I like this better now. This is kind of, again, things that we explore later in later albums. If you remember Winter Rush, I think it was Emmett Till and a couple other records, or White Emmett Till, where he basically says, I was I was segregated by the black kids, but mainly because people thought that I acted white or whatever because I like rock and goth and stuff like that. So you had that kind of portion in here, but also just again talking about how we're looked a certain way or like we're viewed a certain way because of how we look and how we use race to depict things. And Charles is like, I'm just gonna cut people off no matter who they are. But it doesn't matter how it is. If you're not bringing me, if you're not bringing success, or you're not bringing a positive light or a positive spin on my life, then I'm just gonna cut you off because I don't fuck with niggas at all. I like the record. Again, another song that wasn't high on my list at the time, but listening to it today, much better appreciation for it, especially in 2024 with some of the things we've gone over through in the last 5 years.
Yeah. Um, I overall said the song's okay. It's this is my thing, right? And I've said this before. The song could have been better, but I always like when Charles attempts these songs. It's
Hmm.
just one of those things where like, especially now, you don't hear it as much, but just like anytime when Charles is taking some type of stand and saying, hey, this is how the country is moving, or this is how, the stuff I've seen growing up
Hmm.
has been going on or whatever. And like I said, it's always like a reflective thing. And like I always think it's cool whenever he talks about that type of stuff. But one thing I will say is this. I know Charles doesn't want to be like considered like the backpack rapper because that was like that stigma at the time. Oh, you only talk about race and how to build this and da. It's like he's more than that. But like I said, I still like whenever he made songs like this. Um, like you said, he tackles the topic of racism, which isn't easy. He talked about obviously his own upbringing. I think it said that they would treat him like a Connor, you
Yep,
know. Maybe that's where Connor Harrington came from,
I
you
would
know.
think so. Yeah.
So and also I'm pretty sure you can agree, it's just like it's this weird thing that people will do where it's just like, oh, if you're not acting like the stereotypical so and so, then you're whitewash or whatever. It's like, no, that's just not who I am. But
Hmm.
then if you're on the other side, oh, you're ghetto and this and that. And it's like, it's that, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So,
Yep.
um, but it's one of those things where he also mentions like some of the ignorant moments I'll say some
Hmm.
of the ignorant moments that people go through. You grow up and you see them, you might have some of your own, but you try to avoid doing that, especially in public, because then
Hmm.
it makes everyone look bad. um but it's one of those things where like it's so damaging to the community about that type of stuff. The one thing I like where he mentioned, I think in the third verse, because he said, if Asher Roth just came out there and said, yo, what up, my nigga, you know he grill him. He dap him up still, but he grill him because like, oh, but he knows that like he knows what he meant by that, and also he feels him like he understands, but there's other people that fill him or want to fill him with bullet holes and whatnot for just
Right.
even saying the word.
Right.
It's just and the scheme was nice, but it's just like, bro, that word is so charged and it still has so much into it. And of course, we've all been trying to change it and trying to, but like I said, it's a mature song. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Like you
Hmm.
said before, some people still try to act like racism doesn't exist, so they'll just skip this song completely. But I think the song's okay overall. Like I said, not my favorite, but I still like when Charles like attempts to make songs like that because it's important. It's important to have these conversations.
Agreed. Follows it up what I think is would have been the lead single on the album, All Alone. We talked about the song ad nauseum. It's a really good song. Would have been a huge hit, especially today. Um, one of those songs where it's like, bro, he was really screaming for help. Like the lyrics are very like, hey, I can't escape my mind. I'm trying to tell y'all, but y'all aren't listening. Y'all just bopping your head. And I was one of them, unfortunately. Um, with hindsight, again, song's still amazing. But again, I do think it was like a huge cry for help.
Definitely. It's one of those things where it I don't know when everyone realized this, but even regular pop artists that do songs like this, like they all have songs like that where like you're just
Yeah.
nodding your head, tapping your feet to the beat, or whatever it is, and then it's really about some type of depression situation, lifestyle, whatever, where it's the cry for help. And I think it's one of those things where I'm pretty sure the first person who ever came up with a song like that, they made a song that was really depressing. And then probably one of the record execs was like, that's really touching. Can you like punch it up and make it like enjoyable to listen to? How about we speed up the instrumental and then you sing it like in a happier mood,
Yeah,
And
basically.
yeah, and then like that's just been the status quo since forever now. So now, it's like, hey, I want to tell y'all, that I'm really sad, but my record label won't let me do that. So I'm gonna say it in a different way. Really good song. One thing I realized when I heard this, when I was listening to this album again,
Mm,
I don't like this version as much as I guess the leaked version, which was the one on My Heart.
yeah.
I think I'm more familiar with that one. So I'm just like, now this one isn't bad. It's obviously the same song, but I normally don't say this. I feel like it's too clean, I guess you could say, or too polished. I normally don't say that about Charles songs, but this one I'm like, I seen what they did and what they changed. I like the original version, but overall it's a really good song. I agree with you. If this was able to come out how it was supposed to, um, it could have been bigger. And I know the one thing that also makes me a little sad is I normally don't recommend it, but it's still on YouTube, this episode Behind the Lava Lamp with Corpy, where they actually showed uh their reaction to All Alone getting leaked. And Charles, like for like 3 minutes, says nothing. You literally just see Charles just like he's thinking in his head, he's saying it all in his head, but you just see him like, this is some bullshit. This is
Mhm.
fucked up. And of course, everyone was just like, yeah, man, like how the fuck do they have the clearance to do all that? How could they just put it out without his permission, I guess. But it is what it is. So like they said, back to the hood they go. So but overall good song. Really good
Yeah.
song.
Yeah. I was gonna bring up you probably know it because you always going out. I feel like I've said it on this pod though. I know I said it on a pod, but remember that song that's I forgot who the semi is it Semi Charmed? Is that the name of the song or the band?
Oh, the I want something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that song. Yeah. You
Yeah.
did you did mention it on here, but just mention it again because that was several episodes ago. That was actually like maybe a year ago.
Yeah, that's whole song's like about drug use. I believe what I say was like coke or heroin or something. And I was like, wait, what? And I'm just singing along like nothing's wrong, bro. It's the craziest thing. Like, but it was probably a different version of that song, and they were probably like, "Yeah, that sounds great." Did you ever think about singing it like happier? And they just went back to the drawing board. It's like we have a hit on our hands. Sick hit, but a hit. The
It's a hit.
industry. Yeah, a hit's a hit. Um, then we have what I think should have been a second or third single, Cable in the Classroom. What did you think about that one?
So when I first heard it, I I might have just been listening differently. I thought the song was okay. I
Mm,
didn't really like get the big deal when everyone else talked about like, oh my God, I love this song. I'm like,
mm,
all right. It's all right. Now when I hear it, I enjoy it a lot more. I think it's a great song. Verses are tight. Hook's very catchy. I mean, the hook's always been catchy. I think the beat to the song, it sounds like New Year's Eve. Like it's like right before the ball drops and or you just have that excitement of like everything about the like, you're about to go into a new year or you just went into the new year and you're just like excited for like your new opportunities, your new ideas and everything like that.
mhm.
And I will obviously I have to say this in case somehow you guys haven't seen it. There is a music video for this, an official music video. It didn't come out in 2009. It came out years later. Shout out to Hamilvision. Charles is actually in the music video and whatnot, actually like rapping along to the song, and they're in like Times Square, I think, just rapping. He's rapping this to the song and all that. So, really great video. I'm glad that we got a music video to it eventually. I mean,
Yeah,
better late than never. But really great song. I didn't like it as much at first. I like it a lot more now. How about you?
it was my favorite song right off the bat. First listen, again, it's one of those ones where press back, press back, press back the entire time. I that beat, those horns and everything just blaring at you, and then the rap second verse is one of my favorite Charles Hamilton verses of all time. That whole teapot, tea bag scheme that he did for the entire is nuts. Teabag. You know what I'm saying? Like he kills that entire verse. Um yeah, it's one of them ones, man, for me. I really love this song. Uh Always high. It's definitely in the top three. Yeah, it's in my top three all time Charles Hamilton song.
Oh, I mean that's what's up.
Yeah.
Also, I did mention the Vision video for this. I forgot there also is a Vision video for All Alone, which I
Yep.
didn't know. He made a
Mhm.
video for that. And also there's like one or two fan videos that like StarChasers or fans of Charles Hamilton have made too. So it's good to see that like regardless of whenever people have made their own videos or remade videos and all that. So, I had to mention that.
For sure. Follows it up with Baby. Now, Baby's interesting because I remember. and those unreleased tapes that used to come out, volume one, two, three, four, each verse got leaked individually. It'd be like Baby verse one, and then like a couple songs, Baby verse two. I'm like, all right, just at this point, just put the song out. Like that's ridiculous at this point. So I heard it in bits and pieces. At the time, it was okay. Nothing crazy for me. I would say it's a much better song today for me. I think it's a lot more palatable. Um, yeah, I would say it's good. It's a good song for me.
Good morning, sunshine. Did you sleep good? Since you moved in here, do you eat good? Do I kiss good? Do I beat good? Wintertime, do I come with the heat good? Don't ever wonder, I take it to the max. Well, I take it past that, then I take it back. Well, tell me what the hell you make it that first day I made up a rap. Me and music made a pact. I promised that I would be good to she, and she would do whatever she could for me. And I do.
I know you said for Cable in the Classroom, you would have, figured that'd be like a second or third single or something like that.
Hmm.
I can say for this, I'm assuming All Alone would have been like the first single,
Correct. Hmm.
Um, I personally think Baby would have been like the second video. To me, it screams like, oh, this is the next song, the second song you put out. Like, of course, when you have a hit and you're like, oh, this is a song that has to go out like immediately. This is what we're like leading the album with.
Yeah.
But no one ever talks about, oh, what's going to be the second song?
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be like, oh, it has to be bigger than this one. It's like it's the one that's supposed to just like keep the momentum going. And I
Hmm.
felt like that this would be a song like that. This is what I said. Uh, this song is the equivalent of riding down the road with the top down going 70 miles per hour or cruising down Rodeo Drive after cashing your first big check. Because I felt like the reason I'm saying this is because Charles, he's flipping back and forth between a fast multi-flow and a relaxed flow.
Hmm.
So the fast part is just going down the road, 70 miles per hour, just no care in the world.
Yeah.
And then, when he's going back into the relaxed flow, it's more of, you on Sunset Boulevard or wherever, and then, you're just chilling like you just seen your first big check. And some of us, we remember the first time you ever got a check from whatever job, and you could. It's funny because you could have been like, "Oh man, $400, man," and that's peanut change now,
Right. Yeah.
But it's just crazy because overall, I feel like the song it just has a feel good moment, feel good sound to it, feel to it. It just makes you say life is good, like it has that feeling. And I definitely could see the song like if they were putting this out, there was definitely supposed to be some type of music video. They're gonna put it on MTV everywhere, like MTV, VH1. You would have seen the song a lot. I could see Interscope pushing this heavy. I think when I first heard this, I was like, it's cool, it's all right.
Yeah,
I definitely like it a lot more now. Like one of my favorites from this album.
for sure. It's funny you mentioned this too because shout out to Revenge X 19,999. He also said, I always wondered if this could have worked as a single. I could see this at the time doing well on radio. So I think we're all in agreement that this would clear. If you go three singles, all three singles are back to back to back. All Alone, Cable in the Classroom, and Baby. At some point, all three would probably got released on the radio for some spin. So yeah, great eye for that one for sure. Um, Next up, I believe is Reminder. Yes, Reminder.
Yeah. First off, shout out to Shalik for the beat.
Hmm.
So like we said before, Charles has no issues with like letting people know like when Charlie's on some type of production or anything like that, he makes sure it's known. Um, I consider this the deep cut in the dark song. Um, there's always like a song that's going to be like the dark song for I think every artist where it's like even if they're the happy-go-lucky artist, it's like, hey, I gotta have that one song where it's like it shows that I'm actually like human, not
Yeah.
that oh everything's so this and that and sunshine and rainbows. Like no, like this is like the thunderstorm type of song.
Hmm.
Charles, talks about his demons and his negative thoughts that appear, and they try to convince him to go back to his old ways. And it's pretty interesting because it took a while to actually get to the song. Like the closest thing you might have had was maybe Ghost. He of course Charles mentions in Barbara Walters, like some stuff he went through, but
Yeah.
Ghost is kind of like the ghost trying to come up to him, but him like swatting him away, like, nah, I got
Hmm.
this. And then at this point, they actually kind of like stop him like in his tracks and be like, nah, like now you really got to deal with this.
Yeah.
And Charles is just fighting his hardest to make sure that he doesn't succumb to his past problems. So um and then obviously this song right here definitely a cry for help too, because just just tell them go away. Just go away. Like I already defeated y'all. Why are y'all back? Like for what? Why? Um I think Charles even knew at any time like this stuff could flip and switch for him. Like
Right.
everything's good for him, everything's great. He has this industry deal, and he's trying to keep it, and he's trying to, make sure that he doesn't mess it up, and just doing the wrong thing, saying the wrong thing could easily just ruin that. But it's a powerful song, powerful ending, really good song. That's what I got for it.
Yeah, I can admit that I probably listened to this song a little bit too much, right? You go through your own situations, you have your own little issues, right? And this was a song that was very relatable at the time. Um, because you can feel I like when you can feel, it sounds crazy, but I like when you can feel the pain that someone's exuding because it's like, oh, you also feel this, right? You also have kind of like you say, it kind of reminds you that you are human. Like there are other humans that feel the same way you do, right? So I would listen to this when I was like really sad, like really, really sad and wanted to, whatever. Um, the third verse is kind of like really kind of striking, like that just the way it starts. The day that I was born, another man died. The Hamilton smiled, another fam cried. I attempted suicide enough damn times to know that man's ghost haunts me and I fucking can't die. It's just like that's very vividly imaged, right? You can kind of see that kind of haunting of type of situation. I love the song. I probably haven't heard the song before in a long time until we had the review for this. So you get those chills or whatever. But like you said, a really good song, really great song, honestly. Hidden in his discography. It's kind of hard to listen to when you think about some of the stuff you may have gone through in your past. So really good song though. Uh, follow that up with oh, where'd it go?
Tears of Fire.
Thank you. With Crooked Eye.
So for me, I was I think I was just surprised that no disrespect to Crooked Eye because he's obviously a dope lyricist. I think he goes by what, King Crooked now. I don't know
King
if
Crook.
that's
Yep.
yeah. So, but I was surprised that this was the feature on here from like an artist not that's outside of Charles's like entourage. You know what I mean? So in
Yeah.
my head, I'm just like Crooked Eye's dope. I'm like, why Crooked Eye though? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like why was? And then in my head, I'm like, I'm thinking, I wonder at this point in time were there more people that Charles wanted to work with or vice versa? And then so much stuff happened where, Charles put his foot in his mouth multiple times to the point where people said, yeah, I don't know if I want to work with this kid anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then
Yeah.
Crooked could have been like, nah, I'm gonna still do a song with him. I'm gonna still do a verse for him. And I remember, I forget where, I know it's on YouTube somewhere, but Charles was freestyling on the radio somewhere, and Crooked Eye was like next to him, and they were
Mhm.
both like going back and forth doing freestyle. So they probably had like a good rapport with each other. And then when Charles actually needed like, 'cause I'm pretty sure the label was like, it would kind of help if we got like another artist on there, just and this is another way to be like, okay, some of this album is already like rock or pop-ish alternative, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's like let's get uh a rapper's rapper to get on here and do a song. Um so what I basically, this is kind of like, them both talking about their own pain because everybody goes through their own problems and whatnot, but like Crooked Eye starts it off. We're talking about the stuff he went through.
Yeah.
And then, Charles saying, we feel you over here, my nigga, just, this is what we do over here. That Charles went through his pain and whatnot. And it's just one of those like relatable things. It's like, you're on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast. You deal with this, I deal with that. We deal with things in different ways, but similar fashions, you
Yeah.
know. And overall, just like uh this is what I said. This is the two rappers rap about their pain and compare their problem songs, So just and there's many rap songs are like that, but it's like, we bond over our similar pain and misfortunes, you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
that's how we might struggle, but that's how we survive, and that's how we make it through.
Yep.
Just banding together and getting it together. Um, I said that the song's all right. It's not bad. It's one of those things where, like I said, still me, I'm just like, why Crooked Eye? You know what I mean? Like, why? It this sounds more like something I would hear on a mixtape, which is not a bad thing, but just like I was like, man, it's an okay song. Um, I like I said, I think just maybe that's the only reason maybe why Crooked Eye was on there. Maybe they're like, oh well, I forget what. Oh, was Slaughterhouse a thing? Maybe at the time they probably were a thing. So if they
Oh,
were,
nine, probably.
yeah. So if Slaughterhouse was like a thing, then Interscope because Shady Records, all that type of stuff. So it's like, hey, that's within the family, budget. So let's do that. Um, and also I said this sounds exactly like a commercial Slaughterhouse song. So because that's another thing. When they had their own songs out, everyone loved them. Then when their album came out, it's like y'all
Yeah.
rapping on here, but it's not. This is not what I expected. So
Hmm.
overall, songs all right. Sorry.
Yeah, this is my least favorite of the tape of the album. As much as I am a lyricist guy, I do need certain. I didn't like the beat as much either. I think that was the other thing. It didn't really, compared to everything else. I was like, this one kind of falls short of what I'm looking for as far as um a Charles Hamilton sound. Also thought that it was kind of, but we all know this wasn't mastered or whatever. But it was kind of battling the vocals a lot too. I think with the sample in the background. Um, yeah, this is it's interesting that Crooked Eye was the artist, man. I was even let's say if we still have one artist that's going to be on this album, and that's how Charles wanted it, right? I feel like Joe would have done better on this one. This sounds like a Joe record, right?
Yeah.
And so, and like, it's not like they didn't have any type of rapport before that because they did their little whatever, and it didn't seem like you know, they had like beef or like any bad blood or whatever. So that would have been an easy one. Um, but yeah, there's nothing inherently wrong with the song. It's just like, compared to everything else, it's just this one I didn't gravitate to this one as the other ones were. So, um, I guess before we get to these last two songs, we do have to address the other elephant in the room. We all talked about how there was elephants in the room. This is the second one. Why this album got shelved. There are multiple reasons, obviously. One of the last straws that broke the camel's back was the whole Dilla as executive producer situation. Mike, as our historian of the pod, will you please explain to some of the younger Star Chasers what happened?
Sure. So we said that we are going to talk about the moments, music moments, and everything in between, and this is definitely a moment. And what I'm also going to explain is some other stuff that happened in between. So,
Mhm.
obviously before this album got shelved or before it was supposed to come out, I think we got the cover art, and then
Mhm.
also we got like the track listing and everything, and then you seen it on I think on the back, executive producer James Yancey. So some of y'all are like, okay, what's wrong with James Yancey? Who's James?
Yeah.
So if y'all don't know, that's Jay Dilla. And you guys are like, okay, well, what's wrong with Jay Dilla? Obviously, Dilla is a legend, RIP to him. So y'all gotta understand, Dilla passed away in 2006. This
Mhm.
album came out in 2009. And I'm sure some of y'all are like, oh, well, he probably did. They never met. They never met. They never got to work on music at all, ever. So, and then, Charles had his blog where, he would explain some stuff. Now, let me read this though, because if this was just out there like this and you didn't see the executive producer thing, I don't think there would have been a problem as
Right.
much. But Charles said, I also want to thank James Yancey for his guidance in putting this album together. Sound wise, I couldn't be happier. Again, the album was mastered reel to reel, digital to digital. And I couldn't have done the entire process without him being a total jerk about me getting that extra vinylish sound. Thanks, Dilla. So when you hear that, that just sounds like, hey, Dilla inspired me very much, like so much that, to get that right sound because, I'm such a big fan of his. That would have been completely fine.
Mhm.
But, y'all know how Charles is. He takes things to the unlimited degree. Just gave him
Yeah.
the executive producer claim and all that type of stuff. And that rubbed everyone basically the wrong way. Not only did that probably ruffle some feathers at Interscope, um, people in Detroit. Uh, I think someone went up to be like, "Hey, they asked Dilla's mom, like, so do you not guys know this Charles Hamilton guy?" Never met him, never heard of him a day in my life. The infamous house shoes was one
Hmm.
of the people that made a whole video about it and said, "Yo, you can't come to Detroit" and all that type of stuff. Other people, everyone, Charles got called out on it, and of course he apologized, and he said what he had to say because he realized, yeah, I was supposed to just put out a debut album, and I went too far with trying to make some type of statement that didn't need to be made.
Hmm.
And this is, I think later on we start to get, yeah, like y'all have heard about the Dilla blasphemy, where Charles has said some wild things, uh, to Dilla about Dilla, nothing negative, but it's just like, bro, just let the man rest. Don't mention him. You know what I mean? He didn't help you with the project. Just say you're heavily inspired by him. He
Right.
wasn't in the studio with you tinkering with the like bro. So yeah, so there's the background if you guys didn't know that. So
Yeah, it's definitely one of those situations because like we always say that in most situations, there's no you can't point to one singular moment that created an outcome, right? It's usually a buildup of certain things. And that Dilla situation wasn't like the one reason, like this has to get shelved. No. There had been multiple things up to this point where it's like, hey yo, bro, we're really trying, but you're making it really difficult for us to continue to put this push behind you. Um, it just so happens that that was probably the last one. Um, they kind of, they kind of just like, all right, let's cut our losses here, right? Um, like you said, he should have just been like, hey, I'm heavily inspired. Like I feel like we all knew that just based off of your Dilla tape. Again, that first Dilla tape is a great homage to him. Even when he did the whole, I got a message from Dilla saying that I need to, change rap and help and save hip hop, whatever. That's fine. That's okay. It's still doing a little paranormal thing, but it's not saying, hey, bro was in here and helped me executive produce the album. Let me also put him on there, even though I've never met anybody in his family. So it's like you said, here's the line. He just Super Mario jumped over that bitch. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like that's kind of the issue or whatever. So it's an unfortunate situation that is often brought up in his career and when we talk about him. So it just sucks.
yeah, and it's one of those things where like, I mean, regardless, we all know how Charles, appreciates Dilla, and he
Mhm.
still does to this day,
Yep.
whatever. But it's one of those things where like it seems like he never quote unquote learned from the situation because of course he made his apologies and he knows what he did wrong. But then obviously if you guys have continued to listen to his music, he still mentions Dilla and then he'll step over the line again and
Mhm.
step over the line again and again. And then he'll just like go overbound, like say, oh, but also Jay Dilla is also so and so, and it's just like, listen, there's a right way and a wrong way to do things, and Charles knows sometimes it's better to to keep quiet. This is one of those things like you have to understand who you're talking to and who's saying what to who. So just you gotta be careful with that type of stuff. Understand you have your philosophy, and you say, and of course you're allowed to be inspired by people. But just when it comes to the paranormal stuff, whatever, just be careful. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, that's the best way to close that portion. He follows that up with Long Socks. This one features Show Tooth Fly, man. Good record. I think I was kind of disappointed slightly at the time because I was like, ooh, only it was hmm. I liked Show, but there were times on certain records where I was like, probably Show didn't need to be on this one. So when I heard this, I was like, this is okay. Wasn't the greatest thing. Looking back on it today, it's slightly better than okay. And I just wish this song, when I heard it for this review, it made me say, I wish we could have gotten, records with showing Nate the way they are now. Like they became so much better rappers after like, things kind of dissolved or whatever. And I wish we can get like a prime version of all three of them like together, like rapping. I feel like that would be like really cool. And that's what kind of make me miss that or whatever. The record's cool. Um, it's okay. It's a little bit better than okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I got you. Um, First of all, when's the last time you wore some long socks?
Uh, it's been well, first of all, what's long to me though, right? Because like, what I'm saying? I can buy long socks and they're just regular socks for me. Y'all is like, oh, y'all looking like T-Mac back in the day. You know what I'm saying?
You
So
know
I
what?
don't know.
Actually, you have a point. You know what I mean? Because for me, I'll say for me, right? So, all right, so this is what I used to do back in the day because when it's weird now because now like people think like some people are like, oh no, you have to wear the no-show socks, and I don't like those because I feel like they're too much. So I'm like, yo, just a little like ankle socks, you know what I mean? Where you see a little bit of ankle, if I'm
Yeah,
wearing shorts, you see a little bit of sock past the
right.
ankle, nothing crazy, you know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? I consider long socks, you're a basketball player, so people they wear them up all the way. You
Yeah,
know what I
for
mean?
sure.
They like those long socks, but also for me, when it gets past like I'll say this, if you ever had your socks rolled, I mean if you had your socks all the way up and then you rolled them down to make them shorter socks, those are long socks. I
Got it.
consider that. I used to do that. I remember I used to go out and be like, damn, because I didn't have ankle socks at the time. I'm like, yeah,
With the with the
yeah.
fold over.
One time, just slide them down real quick, slide the socks down. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah,
And I think no one said nothing back then. I think it was acceptable back then because other people did it too. But if
yeah.
I did that now, it's like, bro, what are you doing?
Just
You
buy regular socks.
buy some smaller socks, buy some shorter socks, bro. I'm sorry, I had to bring that up. But so with this song, Charles talks about his upbringing and the struggles he dealt with being a musician and just a regular person. We all go through our stuff. Um, and then he talks about meeting a younger kid that said, being a fan of the music and it's that whole inspiration type thing. So
Mm,
it's you went through this type of struggle and so did I, and I relate to
mm,
you, you relate to me, and it's like you know what, and that's how a friendship like that starts, and it's a great friendship. I think shows on the second verse. He tells this side story of how he met Charles and how he reacted to knowing someone like Charles, and they wrap it up on the third verse where they go back and forth. I always call it the Jadakiss and the Styles P thing because
yeah.
they do that like really well. But they just they show each other brotherly love and their love for music and bars and all that. So um it's one of those I consider this the together we're stronger type of song, but it's very effective because
Mm,
um we all have had or we have a friend that's like that where it's like this person really made me a better person in life, but it's also a double-edged sword because if you lose that person, whether they leave your life or they pass away, you know how hurt you're going to be. But overall, really really good song. I like the song.
I also think what's interesting on this song as well is the having show on here is that if you listen to some of the other songs on the tape, right, or whatever, he does get into kind of again hindsight stuff. He does get into like how he feels like he's doing everything he can to put his people on, but it doesn't seem like they're being grateful enough. And I think it's just interesting that he does still put show in here. I wonder if he ended up putting show in that bucket, or was this like shows like an outlier, like he doesn't, he's grateful for what I'm trying to do or whatever. Because it does seem like that he did have a lot of issues with some of the Mev guys not pulling their weight or whatever. But I think show was kind of maybe because he never really beefed with show. He always, they always had a pretty good rapport or whatever. And it does seem like show appreciated like him trying to put him on, trying to help him out or whatever. So just an interesting tidbit I thought about as I was listening to it. Um, the album ends with Rosado, man. What do you think about this? It samples the great Sade, Kiss of Life, and features Aja Monet, poet from Brooklyn. Oh my God, that was loud. How do you feel about that?
So I think I'm gonna say this right now. I think this is a great way to end the tape. I call this a calming and peaceful tune. Charles is very introspective on this track, and it makes you reflect on life. Um, I said it reminds me of taking a deep breath to reset yourself or remove stress. Because just like that's just the number one. sample Sade, just that's going to be amazing because her music doesn't miss,
Hmm.
Aja Monet, she had some very powerful spoken words near the end to further the peaceful vibe,
Hmm.
so just like it's this is definitely probably one of those underrated songs. Like I know everyone that's heard the song loves the song, but it probably doesn't get talked about enough or as much, as it should. So
Every second you live, every second you breathe is every second you give.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a great meditation song. Something you can just literally sit in the dark, maybe throw on one of your little fade color lights or whatever, and just zone out, bro. Just chill. Like I said, very introspective, very, getting back into that pink is the color of light. Pink is, God's woman. Pink is inside of a woman's womb. That's philosophy that he provided us all those years back. Great record. Like I said, two good verses. Monet does a great poem. I love good poetry. Charles loves good poetry. It's a really good way to end the tape and a really great way to end what was a debut album to me. I think it was a good way to end it.
yeah, totally.
Any more thoughts before we rate this tape about This Perfect Life? Anything we may have been missing as far as the story around it or anything around it?
For me, nah, I really don't have anything. Of course, we talked about the Dilla thing. It was something that we couldn't avoid. You know what I mean? Talked about some of the perceived singles. Um, if you had anything, feel free.
I got nothing, man. I'm ready to rate this after listening to it in 2024, man. So let's give our ratings, our reviews, pros and cons, and the character rating that we plan on giving it, man. What you got, Mike?
All right, so I will read this before I give my rating.
Hmm.
This was Complex that said this. Listening to this album, you can hear why things didn't work out with Interscope. Charles has a loyal following of fans who understand his style and intentions. But imagine Interscope trying to sell this shit to the masses. It sounds like arrogant lo-fi hip hop made in a closet somewhere and loved most by the J Dilla imitator who made it. That being said, there are flashes of greatness and hidden potential.
Man, sit your dumb ass down.
Very very harsh right there. But this is how I feel about it personally. Now listening to this in 2024.
Hmm.
Of course I said when this first came out, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. This is what I think. I think I expected more, like I said, something bigger and better,
Hmm.
technically. Like either more commercial hits or more depressing songs, because Charles is really good with doing that, but maybe that wasn't the right time to do that for your debut album.
Hmm.
Um, I do feel like there was an attempt to kind of showcase everything. The whole, hey, I can do the pop songs, I can do like the rock rap thing, I could do the lyrical thing, I could get introspective, I could be depressing, I could do it all, and with Charles's caliber or his type of the type of style he has, like it's like there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, major labels want you to branch out. Um, I think that I think I might have been too hard on this album. I might have like a skewed perspective.
Hmm.
Some of it, I think is Interscope's fault because we talked about it before. They didn't know how to market. They didn't know where to go, and they should have picked a direction or a lane and stuck with it. They should have did more. Part of it is kind of the Dilla thing, not the whole thing, but that whole Dilla thing, like it really it was a big blow.
Yeah.
If you sit there and think about it, right? If you notice, yeah, this the album was executively produced by Dilla, but he didn't even mention Dilla once on here at all.
Nope.
And I think that's one of the things where like people probably should have just like sat there and try to listen to the music for what it was. And I hate to be like, oh, take the artist from the music and all that. No, like just listen to the music.
Hmm.
And judge it for that. And also sometimes we do know Charles doesn't play ball well. Sometimes if he doesn't want to do something, he won't be stubborn. So there was a lot of outside forces. But when you're just sitting there listening to the music, and since we're far removed from everything now, um, I still think this is a good body of work. It just was a case of too little, too late, too much stuff happened, and then it's just like, well, forget it now. Cut our losses. Um, I don't think enough people talk about this album though. Like the people that we know, the OG fans, we know about it. I don't know if newer fans really talk about it as much. Now listening to this in Hamilton Charles, I get why people said they were disappointed in Hamilton Charles because there was something missing.
Hmm.
In this album, Charles's personality is front and center everywhere.
Hmm.
Whether he's happy, he's upset, that personality is there. What we know of him, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Compared to Hamilton Charles, where it felt like he wasn't able to, he was a little too reserved because of they didn't want him talking about too much.
Hmm.
Um, Nothing sound forced on this album either. Just like might have been some things here and there that it's like, okay, they want you to rap on this beat, but still, it still sounded like Charles at the end of the day. Um, it didn't seem like Charles was trying to go left on here. The only thing that was left was the whole Madilla thing. But other than that, really good album, really good debut. Would have been a better debut if it came out the way it was supposed to. But I don't think it's talked about enough. I think this album's underrated. So I'm going to give it a tails. A solid showing for that was supposed to be his original first showing, first album. But it needs more eyes and ears to it. So tails for me.
I'm gonna be honest, man. I was very pleasantly surprised listening to this album. Um, when I almost, you know, messaged you after the first listen and being like, "Yo, this is amazing. Like this." I wanted to ask you then, but I wanted to wait to the day, obviously, like how you felt about when we first listened to it, because I was like, I think we had the same situation where it was like I liked it, but I wasn't like, this is gonna be like super high in the Charles Hamilton discography, right? But when you have like I said, when you have the benefit of hindsight and like knowledge of like what he went through and like all the things up until today, and then going back and listening to his music, everything makes sense now. And like you said, there isn't too much left conversation, left talk, where everything is palatable and it's easy to understand and digest. And with that comes a more appreciation for the music, a more understanding of what he's trying to say. I think the beats are pretty good, except for maybe one. I think all his verses are very solid, very good. Other than, like I said, other than Tears of Fire, I think it's really up there. And I was close to giving it a supersonic, but I think it falls just slightly short. Because there are still some songs where I'm like, it's cool and okay, not like good or great or whatever. So I'm gonna go Space Sonic. I think that this album is really good, and I can't wait to till we kind of. I think we still have like from the desk of and what's the other one, My Heart or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
I want to listen to those two, and then I want to kind of go through all the quote unquote albums that we've had and kind of rank them because I think if you look at everything, if again taking off the Pink Lava Lamp, obviously, but if you take Pink Lava Lamp off, which I think is an album, this might be the perfect debut album for him that would have came out. Like I know we talked about substance abuse, I know we talked about some other stuff. This is really good. It's a great introduction to him. You learn a lot, and it still sounds like him. And so I can't go anything below a Sonic for sure.
definitely understand. And the one part you said I think is really important because Charles has been telling me that, he's taking notes on like all these episodes where, trying to make supersonic music and whatnot. And like for you, it was like right there, just a little too short. But one of the biggest things that happens or helps is Charles, I know that you like to have your messages out there and you like to be cryptic at times, but sometimes just being vulnerable and visible helps you a lot more than when you're trying to plant seeds or you're trying to put some type of message out there and you're hoping everyone digs for it. To be honest, not everyone's going to take that time and effort to do it. So sometimes less is more, and it helps, it shows, and it's very important. But either way, it's one of those things where I think about it. I'm like, you know what? If this was able to come out right how it's supposed to, sometimes I wonder like numbers don't really matter, right? But I'm like, I wonder how much he would have sold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
First week, 50,000. Could he have made it to 100,000? Could it even been more? Because this is 2009. This is still peak album selling. iTunes
Yeah.
and all that wasn't like really super whatever yet. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
it's interesting to think about that. Like, hey, I wonder, where he would have placed, and how many singles would have actually been singles from this.
Yeah, I think about it too because you got to think about like I so I think by the time if it came out June 23rd, I'm trying to think about where his fan base was because you got to think too like that's when people start putting out the publications starting to put out this guy's the word wasn't out there yet, but like crash out or whatever. And he does all these things and Antics was wearing thin on certain people, right? So, I feel like some of the popularity might have like waned by the time we got to that 2009 part. But I feel like he still had a decent following, right? I think we still were pretty strong as far as that. So I could see him doing between at least 60 and much higher because I think iTunes was kind of it started to get big that then because I was still downloading stuff from iTunes around that time, like just short, like singles and stuff like that. So, and I think with as much as we talk about it, controversy can get wiped away with the hit single. That's how life works. Unfortunately, you in some trouble, drop a slap, and you'll everybody will just forget it. So I think with All Alone, Came in the Classroom, Baby, I feel like one of those would have gotten stuff swept under the rug, but that's in another alternate universe that we don't live in, unfortunately. But y'all let us know what you think about this Perfect Life, man. Where do you rank it? How did you rate it? Um, is this the perfect debut album for Charles Hampton? Does it encapsulate what you think is a great debut for the enigma that is Charles Hampton? Let us know over on YouTube, StarCHaser Central. You can also follow us on Twitter, StarCH Central. You can follow us on our individual pages. I'm at Stick Around 54, STIK around 54 on Twitter and Instagram. Mike, where can they find you, buddy?
On Instagram, the Mike Jackson, Mike Jackson. On Twitter, Mike D Jackson, Mike DEE Jackson. That's one D, two E's. Make sure you guys are following Charles on Twitter at Charles Hamilton. Make sure you are also subscribe to him on YouTube at the talented Mr. Hamilton. I know Charles has been going live recently on his Instagram. He hasn't really been doing it on YouTube, but on YouTube, he's still putting out, certain songs from the King Charles era or whatever else, so still make sure you subscribe to that. If you just look up Charles Hampton on Instagram, you'll find him. So, but also, please make sure if you are not, because this is where he probably going to go in detail, in depth with most things. If you really want to see what Charles is thinking, make sure you check him out on his blog, enterthehamilton.blogspot.com. There it is.
Shout out to Charles. Gave us a shout out on the blog recently, and after our anniversary special. So shout out to him for that. Yeah, the blog is where you're gonna get a lot of information. If you're not, checking out Instagram or whatever, pops up on Twitter every now and again. But be sure to let us know what you want us to listen to. Any tapes we're looking for, obscure tapes, newer tapes are also good. We kind of want to get into those a little bit more. Any moments that you want us to discuss, any, videos, movies, stuff like that, anything, documentaries, whatever you want us to listen to, look at, we will look at and try to make an episode out of it. Mike, you got anything for the people before we head out?
Nah, other than the usual, thank you guys for checking out another episode. Appreciate you. You know what I mean? I hope you guys still rock with us. Good, bad, and different. You know what I mean? So we've been here for like 15 plus years. So we hope you guys stick along for the ride too. So regardless if you just joined or you've been around for almost as long, so thank you guys.
Yep. We are now signing out of the StarCHaser Central podcast, man, where we always encourage you to follow your dreams
and reach for the stars.